G'day punters, welcome to a Kosciuszko edition of Micks Mail. I am joined by none other than Mick Wallace. How are you, mate?
Very well, thanks, Michael. Can't wait for the $1.3 million Kosciuszko on Saturday for country trained horses. Only a couple more sleeps.
Mate, absolutely awesome, and a bit of rain about, which we'll get to a bit later. But, mate, obviously a race like the Kosciuszko is probably pretty close to your heart, mate. Cover a lot of the country meetings, mate. Well, give us an idea of what it means to the country trainers and owners, mate.
Well, it means everything. As you know, in my work with Sky Thoroughbred Central, I do a lot of interviews after races are run, and it's always a topic of conversation. You know, trainers, if they have a horse that they think's got its fair share of ability, they're always tracking towards these rich races like the Kosciuszko and the country championships and the likes, and even the highways that are run each and every week. So no, it's a real buzz out in the country areas. Unfortunately, no representation from the central and western districts where I do most of my work, but maybe next year.
Absolutely, mate, no doubt. Mate, now we've had a bit of rain in Sydney, just sort of scattered showers heading across from Randwick. Suggestion was around 2 mils. Currently, I think soft 7. I think we're probably looking at starting on a soft 7 with an improving soft 7, mate. Rail's in a true position. May not be a track you assess too much, but how do you think it's going to play, mate?
Well, my best educated guess is I think the horses will be coming up the middle, particularly later in the day. The Kosciuszko being around the middle of the program, I think we'll see. I think it'll be fair enough. But I think most of the horses will be looking to get to the centre of the track, and I suppose it depends on how much rain we get. I know you're very good at keeping an eye on the weather. You're always a radar man, looking at which way the weather's tracking, and it's been there's been some real guesswork involved, hasn't there, over the last few weeks there at headquarters. We just don't know whether we're getting lots of rain or none, and I guess it's going to be the same situation this week.
It just, mate, he finds a way to miss Randwick half the time, which is just amazing. But anyway, it's good. As much as I keep tabs on it and sort of post it on Twitter and have a bit of a laugh about it, the last thing we need is a heavy track at this meeting. So hopefully we don't get too many more showers, get to start on it. Look, and a soft 6 is a great track for everyone. So I think it'll be ideal. Oh. Mate, look, let's get into it. So we'll start off with the first runner, Handle the Truth. Currently $4.40. These market courtesy of Tab, so currently $4.40 with Tab. Mate, what are your thoughts on Handle the Truth?
Oh, he's a grand old stager, isn't he? He's a real winner. He's won 9 from 31. Keith Dryden puts the polish on him. I'd say his career highlight would have been winning the 2019 Kosciuszko. He did it in grand style, and even returning last year. He was very unlucky when finishing 4th after covering a little bit of ground. His leading runs have been interesting. 4th to Nature Strip there in the Group 3 Concord first start, was taking on the big boys and girls, and then last start there, 7th behind Eduardo at Group 2 level there in the shorts. Both were very good runs. So obviously, this is a much easier race. And from gate number 1, I don't know if it'll be a help or a hindrance. If he can bounce and settle in the first 5 or 6, well, he's a massive winning chance. But if he gets a shuffle back, well, it could be a different story.
Yeah, I think, mate, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's all going to be, you'll know your fate in the first 200 metres there, where Nash, but Luke got the right jockey, right? Nash is the right jockey to push, but in the big field, it'll be interesting to see where he gets. So be very, very keen to see what happens in the first couple 100 metres with Handle the Truth. Mate, front page, unfortunately, is scratching, which is shattering to obviously to all connections there. The one big thing with it coming out, we've taken some speed out of the race here. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it certainly has. Front page would have been carving across from an outside gate and certainly settling down in the first 3 at least, you would think. So that gives an opportunity for a couple of those horses that are drawn wide that might have an easier time getting across. And saying that, some would have been relying on getting the card across. But it's interesting, just devastating for connections. I think they had a similar mishap this time last year as well. So that's very disappointing. But we'll get an emergency taking its place, and it'll still be a great race.
Absolutely. So maybe move on to Arcado, $6.50.
Yeah, well, has had 11 starts and never finished any further back than second. 5 wins and 6 second place finishes. The winner, of course, of the country championships earlier in the year, defeating another one and Charmy Baby. Lead-in form comes into the race first up, which has got to be a little bit of a question mark. Did run second to Trumbull in a 1,000-metre Hawkesbury trial on September 7 to ready him for this. But it's never easy going into a 1,200-metre race there at Randwick, first up and likely on a wet track. But he's certainly got his fair share of class. 7 starts on wet tracks for 4 wins and 3 minor placings. So you've got to take note of a statistic like that.
That's it, and look, gets Tommy Berry on board, which is always a big help. My biggest query with you is any of those first start runners now, given that the likelihood that probably not going to be much better than a 6, could get to a 5, could race like a 5, but it's still not going to be. They would have been liking a good 4, no doubt, for a lot of these first up horses. Mate, next we headed to Plonker. What a name! $34 with a tab.
Yeah, I think initially a lot of people were surprised when the slot holder picked up Plonkers at the 23 starts for 5 wins and 6 minor placings. Warren Gavanlock trains. The lead-in form's been interesting. I thought it was just an even effort there at Gosford in a 78 behind Electric Girl. I was only beaten 2 lengths, but when I dug a little deeper, the form out of the race has been pretty strong. Electric Girl has gone on to run really well in the Niverson. Liberty's Son, who finished second, went on to win the big sprint up there at Port Macquarie. Quantico, which ran 4th, has gone on to win at Rose Hill. So maybe it wasn't such a bad form reference. I think the positives with him is that he's match fit, having had the 2 runs and a trial leading in. And the negatives, maybe he's not in career best form, but he could surprise a few.
Yeah, I like it. Not much more to add, mate. That's a good assessment there. Mate, number 5 ahead of his time, $61.
Another one that I think probably surprised a few when he got picked up, a 5-year-old who's had 6 wins from 29 starts with 5 minor placings with Trevor Hardy these days. Jeff Penzer to take the ride, lead in form, won the Dan Baker Prelude and then went on to win the Dan Baker Sprint up there at Coffs Harbour and did so in good style. You would think this is a bit of a step up to Kosciuszko level. I think it's good that Jeff Penzer's on board, considering he was on board in both of those Coffs Harbour wins. And 5 of his 6 wins have come on rain-affected tracks, so there's a tick there as well.
Ticks a lot of boxes, big odds, but we probably suggest that it's maybe just a little bit out of its depth.
I think so.
Mate, we move on to number 6, Spirinaka, $7 with J-Mac on board. That's a good booking.
Yeah, most definitely. And look, I've got a lot of time for Spirinaka. I think she's on the upward spiral still, and the way she won that Panorama last start, she did so with the leg in the air. She really powered away from her rivals. The query I have with her is we don't want too much rain. I think she does her best work when she's on top of the ground because she's able to utilise that really good turn of foot she's got. And speaking with Rod Northam after the win there in the Panorama, he said she can handle rain-affected tracks. She just doesn't like those shifty sort of tracks. So she can get her toe in a little bit. Look, she can get some purchase in the ground. She might be able to reel off some good late sectionals. The Panorama 1,300 back to 1,200. It's a minor query, but I think she's got a bit of quality, a 6-time winner from 14 starts.
Yeah, I don't mind the 13 to 1,200 myself, especially, look, I think the big query is the speed on. I'm interested to see how much speed there is, and we'll get to Matenadaraja in a minute. But definitely one that I had in my top 4, but based on price, is probably around the right price, maybe a little bit unders at the moment for mine. Mate, big boom on this horse, number 7, Edit, into $4.80 now.
Wow.
What do you think?
Well, there was a lot to like about that win in the Spring Cup up there at Tamworth, the only run that we've seen from him in this country, former New Zealander. And he got all the way back to last there at Tamworth. Not easy to win from that far back at that track. And it's not like he got the easiest of paths through, too. He was ducking and weaving, had to change direction a number of times, and in the end won quite comfortably, getting over the top of Cassie's sister, and Rex, who's since come out to win the Denman Cup there at Muswellbrook. So that form looks okay. He's largely untapped, and if he's improved since Tamworth, he's going to give this an almighty shake. It'll be interesting to see where he gets to in the run. Negatives, look, his form that we've seen so far, you would suggest that perhaps his best form's on top of the ground, but he's largely untested on rain-affected going.
Yeah, his career best rating there was on a soft 5. So the best thing is obviously still has improvement to come. I think the trainer suggested maybe 4 to 5 lengths. Might have been a little bit excited after the race, but have said, look, it improves 4 to 5 lengths. They probably don't get near it. the big one for mine is if there's a lack of speed, and you wouldn't imagine so, right? We're racing for a lot of money here, but with front page coming out, I relegated it to second just because I was a little bit worried about that, and I think we're getting pretty short now for a horse that's going to have a lot of work to do as they hit the home turn.
Do you think he settles down in the last 2 or 3?
He has to.
Yeah.
I don't see. Look, there's one of those things with these races, isn't it? Like sometimes you just got to suck it up and you make a decision. And look, Huey's great. Huey's probably the kind of jockey that he could sum it up. And if they're not going forward, it's just such a hard map for mine. Be interesting. Look, I've backed him, so I'd be happy for Huey to give it the old let's just have a crack. But if you get caught 3 wide, 4 wide, could you imagine the punters blowing up?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult decision to make, isn't it? Whether you push the button and bank on his raw ability, maybe riding him a little bit out of his comfort zone. Personally, from the draw, I'd like to see him go back and just get his chance to work through the gears down the outside in the long Randwick straight. Yeah,
I think so. Look, the best, as you said before, mate, the best going is going to be down the middle. So I want to see him, get down that lane 8 and just let rip. And if they go too slow, they go too slow. But it'll be running a race.
Definitely, he's got that X factor too, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Look, we could see something special there. We should be. That'd be interesting. Mate, move on to number 8, Ice in Vancouver. Could be a runner here that's going to inject a bit of speed from the outside. $26 with Timmy Clark on board.
Yeah, interesting runners. Had 6 starts for 3 wins and a minor placing. Cody Morgan and Tim Clark. Nice combination there. I still think the career best performance was start number 1. I went around in a maiden, drew barrier 13, sat 4 wide, no cover, vying for the lead, and then was able to sprint off that hot tempo and put a gap in them, won by more than 4 lengths, and then repeated the dose at start number 2. I think the race just came up too quick last year when he contested it. I think he might have gone around the Kosciuszko maybe in start number 3, pulled up with cardiac arrhythmia at the tail of the field. Obviously a bit more seasoned this time round. Was a beaten favourite to Grafton last start behind the Draker and Cassie's sister earlier in the year. But we'll be tuned up and ready to go.
Yeah, my big concern is there was a failure on a Randwick soft 7 over 1,000 metres where conditions were blamed. So you wouldn't want it to be any wetter than a 6.
For sure.
Moving on, number 9, Island Bay Boy, $23.
Well, there's 1 4 from 8, so got a very good win strike rate, and Jason Collett takes the ride. Career best performance. Struggled to find a clear-cut, standout run. Finished 5th in the Wagga Guineas. That was behind Marinara, and he beat 3 lengths, but that was over a mile, and was a winner of a Tab Federal there at Queanbeyan last start. Obviously, a very smart horse, but I've got a fair few ahead of him.
I think needs more rain. That Queanbeyan Heavy 8 run rated pretty well. More rain, the better for it, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting runner here, mate. Matenadaraja. Now, it's about to do this in its first preparation. Jumping from barrier to $11.
Well, they say winning form's good for. I must admit, I'll take a little bit of a set against him. I'd love to see him win for Stephen Jones and Matthew Palmer. The last couple of wins have been very good, but they've both been at Class 2 level, where he's been able to dictate terms and run them into the ground. Both of those have been over 1,100 metres, has never seen 1,200 before, and is going to be in a world of hurt, you would think, the last 50 metres. I just think it takes a real hard head, a seasoned horse, to maybe lead throughout and win a Kosciuszko, particularly when this horse has never gone beyond 1,100 metres. And it is a big step up in class.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Look, its chances have significantly increased with front page coming out, but not increased enough for mine. Number 11, Mr. Hustle, $19.
Yet to finish out of the place in 6 starts, which includes 3 wins. Cameron Crockett trains Regan Bayless to do the steering. His big highway win first up was probably one of his best performances. It was his first run for 93 weeks. It was on a heavy track there at Randwick, and he did a great job to win there. In subsequent runs, he's been there and thereabouts. As far as positives go for him, his last 3 runs have all been at the Randwick 1,200 metres. Drops in weight, might be giving the big guns a bit of a head start, though. That's minor query.
Yeah, interested in this runner. I think it's about the right price. I remember hearing Cameron Crockett didn't think it was ready to go first up, and its first up run was fantastic, and may have been a bit above itself that day. And I think maybe you never know. Cameron's might just let it go around, build the fitness into it, and it could peak. Not in my top four, but you couldn't knock someone for having their hard earned on that one.
Yeah, he's not the sort of horse I want to completely overlook. He might be one for the wider exotics.
Yeah, no doubt. Mate, we move on to number 12, Ceasefire, $26.
Yeah, he's a beast. I really like him. He's a real raw talent. His debut win there at Tamworth was outstanding. I know he didn't beat a great deal. I was trackside that day, and I remember speaking to Aaron Bullock, and he was glowing in praise after that win. Won by 6 lengths, could have won by further. That was on a rain-affected track. He's obviously never come up against the opposition that he's going to see there on Saturday, but his first up win was very good and in a benchmark 66, easily accounting for Fox Storm and Joey's chances since coming out and won well at Tamworth. He's got a big engine, and I just don't think he knows how much ability he's got at the moment. When he puts it all together and the penny drops, I think he might be a real nice horse. Robbie Dolan there in the moment. He's going to be on board on Saturday, and he'll just have to be wary of this horse's quirk to want to lay in. He does duck in quite sharply when jockeys push the button, but I'm sure Robbie will have had a look at the replays, and I think he's one at odds that could certainly give the race a shake.
Robbie had a bit of experience on Profondo, so he's probably worked it out and be well versed in getting him to go straight now, which he did a great job of that the other day.
He certainly did, and I'm so happy to see him win.
Absolutely, and the emotion was great. I love seeing a bit of that after the race, mate. Look, at $26, once again, another horse that's value. So for mine, I had it marked $19, $26. There's no reason why you can't be farming into that if you're that way inclined, but you can't necessarily back them all. Number 13, Patino Ruby, $16.
I don't mind her. In fact, I'm sort of warming to her chances. Brett Kavanagh trains this one. Of course, he won the race last year. Probably the career highlight was winning that 72 there at Rose Hill over 1,300 metres. Got back in the ruck a little bit back in late June and really powered to the line to beat Zoricat and company. The lead-in run I thought was okay there behind Selvarose over the 1,100 at Randwick. Just peaking at the final 100 metres. There's obviously a lot more improvement to come. The positives, Strip's fitter. Cav's got the blinkers up his sleeve too. I see they go on Saturday, and she did wear the blinkers in a recent trial, and she looked the part there. Obviously yet to be tested against this sort of company, but I think she's one that can run a cheeky race at odds.
Couldn't agree with you more. Huge chance. My only query was the map, but mate, at the $16, I had it third. At the $16, it's definitely worth a bet for mine, mate.
Yeah.
Move on to number 14, Sunrise Ruby, with Bossy on board from barrier 4 at the $15 mark.
Yeah, well, that's a big tick having Glenn Boss on board. He certainly comes to the fore when the big races are about. This horse, the highway win back in July was very good, came from well off the pace there to beat Phillipsburg and one of the rivals on Saturday there, Mr. Hustle. Phillipsburg then came out and won a highway after that. Recent form, finished second to Calgary Queen there in 72 on the Kenzo on the 25th of August. Positives, has got very good form, at least on heavy tracks. So should we get a lot of rains, had 4 starts on the very wet going for 3 wins and a minor placing, and has won at the track and distance.
Mate, I'm a big fan of this horse. So I had 4 horses that I really liked, and I thought that this horse is probably one that has the most upside. Obviously, I think Edit's already done it in New Zealand, has shown a bit and can go to a new level. But for mine, it's a horse that probably just could come from left field. I saw Mitch Beer put up a post on Twitter, and geez, he sounded excited. I don't think we're talking a week out, and you could hear the excitement in his voice on this post. And he said something along the lines of that's the best track work I've ever seen. He's had some decent horses. He knows what he's doing. You add a bit of improvement to what it's doing. And for mine, from the barrier 4, I'm just preempting. They just don't look, they're racing for 1.3. They're going to go fast enough, but maybe just not quite as fast as you'd think. And for mine, it can be a little bit closer than the likes of Edit and Patino Ruby and Spirinaka. And that's why I put it on top, mate. So for me, that's the on-top runner there, buddy.
Okay, you got any query about had a run for quite a while? It hasn't been around since, what, late July?
Yeah, spot on. Not really. And just like, yes, obviously there's a first up query, but I think it's, from what I've seen and heard ear to the ground, it's been in training and it's been producing. So if I didn't get the steer off that Twitter video, then 100%. But you've seen it and you heard the excitement in his voice. The horse looks strong, ready to go. You just got to believe in Mitch, mate.
Yeah, I suppose as punters and form analysts, we're always absorbing those little tidbits of information, aren't we? And obviously Mitch be very happy with the way his horse is tracking.
Exactly right. Mate, we move on to the emergencies. Not really sure who's going to be taking front page of spot. We'll just touch on them quickly. Irish Songs, $41.
Yeah, very experienced campaigners. Won 5 from 38. Kurt Goldman trains. Very unlucky at Rose Hill last start. I know that because I was on it. That was behind a Quantico. Was slow away, ran into a lot of dead ends. It was a good performance, and I think if this horse could run up to that kind of run, could certainly surprise a few. But yeah, wonder whether Irish Songs will get a start.
Mate, moving on to number 16, another one at $41.
Peak performance in the country championships when finishing second there to Arcado earlier in the year. Well held on the Kenzo last start behind much better. I think most good judges thought that there would be a slot there taken by another one. He's got some ability.
Yeah, I expected a bit more from the last start, so just based on that run, couldn't possibly have it. Move on to Tim's Principal, $81.
Yeah, well, he's a prolific place getter. He's very hard to catch. He's won 5 from 41. He just needs everything to fall into place for him to get the victories on the board. Second at Newcastle last start there behind Northern Knight. I think this grade would probably test him should he take his place.
Yeah, without a doubt. And number 18, Kattegat. We've heard plenty about this horse, trying to get it into the field. They've basically given away everything from a set of steak knives to a kitchen sink. $61.
Yeah, the Maruya Marvel, I think, is what they call him. It was a good run there at Warwick Farm last start, I must admit, behind L'Herbizier. Finished third there, and I don't think he'd disgrace himself if he did manage to force his way into the field.
Yeah, I agree. Could definitely run in the top half of the field there. Mates, awesome. Can you give us your top 4 betting strategy and potentially any exotics you've got for us?
Yeah, look, the exotics are still a work in progress. I'm sort of trying to tie in maybe 6 or 7 horses there at the moment. I think a couple of weeks out, I was sort of leaning towards Spirinaka, but I'm just starting to go a little bit cold and watching the weather. Should the rain stay away and we're in that sort of 5 range, I really think Spirinaka can give it an almighty shake, even if there isn't the tempo there that we originally thought there might be. My selections, I think Handle the Truth has come at it from a different angle this year. Has been going up against good quality opposition. The horse has been going around behind Nature Strip and the likes. They're going around the Everest. That's a different gravy. And I just think from gate number 1, if he can bounce and box seat's probably optimistic, but if he could sit 5th the fence or something like that, and there's no sort of disadvantage to being down on the outside, and the jockey can extricate a passage, I really do think he's going to be very hard to beat. He won 2 years ago, and you can make a case he was unlucky not to win last year. 13, Patino Ruby is a horse I'm really interested in. Brett Kavanagh trains, and I just get the feeling there's still plenty of meat left on the bone with her. I just think Cavs have been kind to where the blinkers go on tomorrow, on Saturday, I should say, and I think she'll be able to settle a little bit closer to the speed. I know when she won that 1,300-metre race there at Rose Hill earlier in the year, it was their intention to sit on pace, so they obviously believe she's got enough tactical speed to get up there in the firing line, and maybe with the addition of the shades, she can just stalk the speed. 12, Ceasefire is a roughie I want to include. It certainly has the X factor. Whether this race is just coming up a little bit too soon for him career-wise, he might be better served next year because he's still working things out. There's still a few chinks in the armour there, but he's a really smart horse. And I just think he might be able to get across a little bit easier now. I know you can use a horse to tag across, but if there was sort of 3 or 4 vying for early supremacy and he was sort of 3 wide, no cover. That might have been the end of his chances. But look, I've got him in the mix there. And 7 Edit, no knock on the horse at all. Little bit concerned as to where it might get to in the run. Could end up at second last or last where it's drawn and going off that win there at Tamworth last start. But has to be respected. Looks the real deal. So I've marked them 1, 13, 12 and 7. A slight leaning to Handle the Truth, but warming towards Patino Ruby all the time.
Mate, love it. Love the Patino Ruby push. And look, it's interesting with the blinker addition of the blinkers. And I didn't know that last time there was a change of tactics or potentially previous prep to be ridden more forward. So if they can do that for mine, you could easily put that up the order. But I think at $16 is definitely worth a bet. I have Sunrise Ruby on top, Edit just behind it. Patino Edit will definitely need some speed on. Patino Ruby and Spirinaka there. So we're not too far away, mate, in some similar areas there. So hopefully we can steer some punters into some winners. Now, punters, no doubt Mick Wallace will have his tips up on Twitter for the day. He might even chime into an exotic for us, maybe, so we can grab hold of those exotics as well.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to do that at race time. If I was going to try and come up with a strategy early draws, I would have to suggest that perhaps if we had $100, maybe $50 on Handle the Truth, $30 on Patino Ruby, and maybe $20 on Ceasefire at this point in time. I'm not really one that would normally label 3 horses as bet options in the race, but that's the way I'm playing at this early point in time.
Awesome. Love it. The old $100 strategy. That'll be that's nice and easy for the punters. Feed those 2 pineapples into that machine and away you go. Mick, thank you so much for your time, mate. Greatly appreciated. It's a race obviously close to your heart. It's a race that's great for the racing industry. Kudos to Racing New South Wales for everything they've done. Can't wait to get around it. Mate, all the best. Hope you back plenty of winners, and honestly, keep up the good work, mate. You are doing a fantastic job on Twitter and obviously on Ceasefire when you get there as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Michael. I'll be watching the coverage there on Ceasefire at Central on Saturday. Really looking forward to the Everest, and of course, the Kosciuszko is close to my heart. Catch you again soon.
See you, mate.